And the depth to the top of the water surface is a little bit over 13 feet.
Groundwater, you cannot see it, but Julie Reische, a professional geologist with Will Rodgers Inc, just measured it for us. Julie, what is groundwater and what did you find here in Sutter County?
Groundwater is water that is found below the ground surface, and it occupies the void spaces in between individual particles of clay, sand, and gravel.
And what did you find? Groundwater levels have changed since the drought years.
They have. Typically in Sutter County, groundwater levels typically fluctuate between 10 and 20 feet below ground surface, and they've been relatively stable over the past few decades. However, in spring 2017 measurements, we found that groundwater levels recovered, and they were as shallow as 2 to 3 feet in some areas.
What makes the Sacramento Valley different in terms of groundwater?
Sacramento Valley is advantaged in that it has an abundance of surface water supplies. Lake Oroville and Shasta Lake provide a lot of surface water to communities for agricultural use and also for drinking water supply. And by doing that, it allows conjunctive use of the surface water and groundwater resources.
So conjunctive meaning together, so when you're using surface water, you're not pumping that groundwater as much as perhaps some other areas in the state. Does that make sense?
Exactly. So conjunctive use typically involves use of surface water in wet years when there's more surface water available. And by pumping less groundwater, it allows the aquifers to recover. Then during dry years, when there's less surface water available, then groundwater extraction usually increases. But that balance is what makes groundwater resources sustainable, and it's so important.
And how much of our water supply is coming from the stuff under the ground? How much comes from groundwater?
Statewide, it's typically about 30% to nearly half of the state's water demand that comes from groundwater. And here in the Sutter subbasin, groundwater makes up about 30% of the total water use.
So it's a very important piece of the water puzzle.
Exactly, it is. Agriculture is a big industry in this area, and so having abundance of surface water and groundwater is really beneficial.
How important is collaboration when it comes to water management?
Water is necessary for many uses and for our way of life. And so whether it's used for urban use or agricultural use, that collaboration is really important to having successful management of our water resources.